It is day 25 of the Karen Read Retrial. It is Monday, June 2nd. Happy Pride. We are now into the defense case in chief, which means the defense is calling their witnesses. We know that unlike last trial, the Commonwealth says that they have some rebuttal witness. Even when the defense rests, we are not done with this trial and the judge is not ready to send it to the jury yet because we are going to have some rebuttal Commonwealth witnesses after the defense rests. So we've got at least another week or two, maybe a little bit more. We are in week 7. The jury was qualified for 8. So we are getting into the critical timing of getting this trial done before the jury starts getting way too cranky after 8 weeks of trial. So we are in week 7. It is day 25. It is June 2nd. It is Pride. It is all the things. And where we left off on Friday is that the judge had not made a ruling regarding the Trooper Proctor text messages. I believed that the judge said that they would start with that this morning. So that's what I'm planning on us seeing first. So let's do all of that first.
Your Honor, I've resolved the matter with Mr. Brennan that would have been the subject of that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I appreciate getting the redacted text messages over the weekend. Ms. Giannetti, this is yours, right? So, Mr. Brennan, I'm letting the text messages in over the Commonwealth's objection. I find that they're properly authenticated and that they do go to...
Can I turn this fan off?
Yes, can we turn... Thank you. So I do find that they're properly authenticated, and I find that they come in as they go to the state of mind of Trooper Proctor, specifically as that goes to potentially reflecting any bias or omissions in the police investigation. So I'll give a limiting instruction at the time they come in.
These messages begin at 11:05:57 p.m., run through 11:06:39 p.m. on January 29, 2022. Does it begin with comments from Mr. Proctor?
It does.
Could you read all of them, please?
He's like, please no.
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words?
Well, his face said it before his mouth did. Can you read them all? He's like, do I have to? I'm backing that up.
These are not my words. I'm not really comfortable reading these. Do I have to say these words out loud?
So I'm going to see you at sidebar.
And a sidebar, when the witness said, these are not my words.
Sir, I'm appreciating that you're not comfortable with these words. These are not your words, are they?
No, they're not.
You didn't see them at the time?
I did not.
You've never condoned them or adopted them?
No.
In fact, you would denounce these, wouldn't you?
I would.
I don't want you to say words that are not yours, so I'll say the words, and I'm going to ask you if I'm reading accurately. Is that better?
Yes.
Is that a fairer way to do it?
Brennan's going to read them all in? Oh my God. Well, it's cross-examination. Brennan can read them all in. Look, we're all sitting here just waiting to see who's going to blink and call Trooper Proctor. Somebody's got to, right? Well, maybe not. I talked about it on this week's episode of the Emily Show podcast, which lives on the Emily Show podcast YouTube channel, The Emily Show. The defense said after court on Friday that they're not going to call Trooper Proctor. Maybe they're going to just let Trooper Proctor be the boogeyman. Now they know that Trooper Proctor is still friends with the witness that testified this morning. We know that Trooper Proctor has been terminated due to text messages, in this case, in part, and other things. And we know that Trooper Proctor said all of those awful things. I think the texts have less impact when they don't come from Trooper Proctor. But the fact that they didn't come in till the defense case might have the impact that the defense desires, which is, are you kidding me that these are the things that were said? We're going to have to wait and see. And I just wonder if the defense is going to rethink that at the end of the court day today, if they're going to sit back and see how the impact of that testimony came across. I don't know. That is a strategy decision that they are going to have to make. Do you leave him out there as this officer that the Commonwealth never called, this former officer fired, said all these shitty things in text, is just horrific? Or do you bring him in and prove it to the jury? Is there a downside for the defense calling Trooper Proctor? Is having Brennan be able to do cross from Trooper Proctor bad for the defense? I don't know. Is calling the friend the way to get those texts in and then you just argue them on closing? If this judge, and I don't know if that's going to be the case this time, but last trial, the judge kept their closings to an hour, which I think is appallingly short and I hate it. If the closings are going to be that short, you don't really have the time to get into talking about Proctor's text as much as you would if you just call him on the stand.
Do you want to be here today?
I have no relation to this case, so.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you if you want to be here today.
Objection, this isn't direct.
So it's your witness.
I understand.
No.
It's your witness. Oh boy, we're having like the defense attorneys defense attorneying at each other. Do you want to be here today? Obviously not.
Did you observe anything unusual that stood out in your mind that occurred, pardon me, in the Sallyport while you were on that shift?
So we've discussed this previously. I can't make that statement on the stand because I've been provided information released by the defense that
What?
it was not a memory, that it was a distorted memory. Therefore, I can't state it because at this point it would be a lie. I cannot make that statement that you're wanting me to make on the stand because I've advised that that would be a lie.
Ms. Dever, I've never asked you to make a statement.
She said she talked to the defense prior to the first trial, but I am so curious as to what she is getting at. She said, no, I don't have a memory of what I think you're trying to ask me because you've provided me information. But if it refreshes your recollection, you're allowed to be provided information like your report or your statement that you gave to other law enforcement.
Ms. Dever, I've never asked you to make a statement one way or the other on the stand. I'm asking you an open-ended question.
Okay,
Did
so
you,
prior
let
to
me
the
ask you a
first,
question. Did you observe
boy.
something in the Sallyport garage on January 29th, 2022 that you found unusual, that stuck out in your mind?
given factual information that makes it so I know I did not, no.
So the answer is no.
Correct.
Do you remember being interviewed on August 9th, 2023?
I do.
That was by a separate law enforcement agency, correct?
So
Yes.
now he's going to
Two
impeach her
separate law
with the
enforcement
interview.
agents, is that right?
Yes.
And you were advised during the course of that interview on August 29th of something, correct?
Can you rephrase
I'm sorry,
that?
August 9th.
So what was I advised of? Can you rephrase that?
Sure. Were you advised that lying to those officers would be a crime?
Wait, did you lie? What?
So it was a willing conversation. I've spoken with their legal team. Because of the fact I was provided factual information that showed a statement of mine was a false memory, it was not a lie. Therefore, I made it in good faith, and I retracted given information that it could not be accurate.
Ms. Dever, did you understand my question?
I've spoken with their legal team. Isn't their legal team like the U.S. Attorney's Office? Can we get back to I don't even know why I'm here? Because it seems that you do know why you're here.
Yes, I did. You threatened to charge me with perjury during our phone call.
What? Oh, Emily, back up. You threatened to Jackson can't charge you with shit. He's no longer a district attorney.
Ms. Dever, did you understand my question?
Yes, I did. You threatened to charge me with perjury during our phone call prior to the first trial if I didn't lie on the stand right now. I'm telling you, I did not see anything. Factually, I've been provided evidence by a timeline that it is not correct.
Ms. Dever, my question was this. Were you advised that it was a crime to lie to those law enforcement agents? Yes or no?
No.
They never told you. They never admonished you that it would be a crime to lie to them?
They probably didn't because she's law
As to
enforcement.
form, Mr.
That's asked and answered.
Did they advise you of anything?
They probably
Any
didn't.
consequences of lying to them?
So we had a willing
That's
conversation.
yes or no?
I don't recall.
Okay, there's your answer.
You don't recall if they advised you of anything?
She's
No, because it wasn't.
As a trained law enforcement agent.
Go ahead and ask a question, but both of you only one at a time, okay?
As a trained law enforcement officer, are you aware that it's a crime to lie to certain other law enforcement agents?
When you have intent to lie, yes.
Okay. So you knew that when you spoke to these law enforcement officers, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you tell these law enforcement officers that you, in fact, saw Brian Higgins and Chief Burkowitz go into the Sallyport with the
Objection.
SUV? May I finish my question?
You can finish this question. Go ahead.
Did you tell those law enforcement agents on August 9th, 2023, that you saw Brian Higgins and Chief Burkowitz go into the Sallyport together and alone with the SUV for a wildly long time?
That was my recollection at the time.
So you did say that?
At the time, that is what I recollected.
Okay. Fact of the matter is, nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did. Yes,
That's it.
because
That's
I
it.
contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You have a report?
Jackson just wants to fight with this witness, and this witness is like, yeah, I contacted the FBI about it.
Nobody ever threatened you with perjury, did they?
Oh, they did. Yes,
That's it.
because I
That's it.
contacted the FBI regarding it.
Oh, did you?
I did.
You have a report?
I have an email conversation where I sent the 2 questions I had. She responded, I will pass these along. I was contacted by their legal team. They reassured me perjury was not applicable because I made a statement in good faith. Upon further information, I retracted it, corrected it, and made it clear that I could no longer say it because I knew that it was not a clear reflection of the events that took place.
That's a mouthful.
Yes.
My
My
God.
question is, do you have a report from the FBI saying that you reported that someone on the Karen Read defense team
She's like, I have an
threatened
email.
to charge you, your words, with perjury? You have a
No.
report to that effect?
No.
No. You remember on that phone call that we read directly from the exact same report that I just read from? You remember that?
And I told you the same thing then.
That's not
Yes.
my question.
Objection.
Sustained.
My question is, just answer my question, Officer Dever.
Boy.
Did we read to you, where you read the exact same thing that I just read to you on that phone call?
Like you can't remember my name, I don't remember.
I can remember your name, Miss Dever.
Okay.
That was something. We saw defense witness 3, Boston police officer, former Canton police officer Kelly Dever on the stand before the morning break. And wow, things went off the rails quickly. We are still at code red because Kelly Dever had been working at Canton PD the overnight shift from January 28th to January 29th, and then worked overtime from the end of the overnight shift. Nobody ever said when their overnights end, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., nobody knows, till 3:45 p.m., and then was off shift and left the police station. She was working in dispatch. She had been on patrol, and then when the call came into 911 about someone in a snowbank, she was asked to go take over dispatch. At the time, Canton PD manned their dispatch with patrol officers, supervisors, sergeants, and whoever was around. It seems that in the dispatch office, there are the calls active and 911 calls coming in addition to screens that show the cameras elsewhere in Canton PD. And as we got well into this, it was clear she didn't even want to be there today. But then we learned exactly why she was. Why? Well, because she was interviewed by who?
The FBI!
In August of 2023. And it seems that she told the FBI that she saw Chief Burkowitz and Brian Higgins in the Sallyport with Karen Read's SUV for a, quote, weirdly long time. It feels like I'm hyperbolizing a game of Clue. I'm not being hyperbolic. They literally read her statement that she gave to agents from another agency that she saw Brian Higgins and Chief Burkowitz in the Sallyport with the SUV for a weirdly long time. She then testified that that was a false memory or a distorted memory, and that based on the timeline, she left Canton PD after her shift ended at 3:45. And the SUV didn't even get to the Sallyport on January 29th, 2022 until after 5:30 p.m. So she goes, once I saw the timeline, I knew that that couldn't be right. And her exact words were, and I created that memory. The defense got into whether or not her new boss, the police commissioner of Boston PD, had called her in before testifying, and she testified. And the timeline is odd to me if that was before this trial or the last trial, because she was subpoenaed by the defense in both trials. And she said she talked to the defense before the first trial. She said the word first trial as much as anyone could say the word first trial, and nobody objected. It just all happened. So she said that she spoke to the defense prior to the first trial, and she testified that they said they would charge her with perjury if she retracted her statement. She said later in her testimony that she reported that to the FBI. Those are the words that she said, the FBI. She reported that to the FBI, and they have emails back and forth. And then legal for the FBI, the AUSAs, told her that because she did not remember that of her own independent memory, that she wouldn't be charged with perjury if she made the statement in good faith. And she said repeatedly, that's what I remembered at the time. But I know that that's not an accurate memory because I wasn't even there to see that. Now, what I'm dying to know that wasn't addressed is, did you see a video from the Sallyport that showed Higgins and Burkowitz by the SUV? When did that happen? Because she said she's since seen the videos. And she said, no, I retracted that statement from the agency I reported it to the agents I reported it to. And at one point, Jackson said, when you said that to law enforcement officers or police officers, she said, I don't know if you would call them police officers there. And he said agents, and she said agents. So if the jury was confused about what other agency she was talking about, she very clearly said that it was the FBI. And then as we got into multiple cross and redirect and recross and redirect and recross and all of it, it was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth of the defense wanted me to say this and I can't say it because I don't have an independent memory of that. That was a false memory. I don't remember that. So I don't stand by that. Testifying to that would be a lie. And I'm just here to tell the truth. And the defense said, no one ever told you that they were going to charge you with perjury. And you're a police officer. Don't you know who charges things? It's the DA. And she said, well, and the answer was so roundabout and evasive. She's been law enforcement for at least 5 years. You know that the police reports go to the DA's office and the DA decides to charge. Are you joking me? When Brennan was asking her questions, she said that the male defense attorneys raised their voice at her, were upset with her. And she said, I know they're going to eat me alive and tear me a new one for not going with what I previously said. And the defense insinuated through their questioning, so you're protecting someone. So you're protecting your job. Have you ever heard of the, I think he said blue wall or blue wall of silence? And then we got to, have you seen clips of this trial? Have you seen this trial? Have you been watching this trial? And she said, I've seen clips of it, and then personally attacked all of us and said, it's 6 hours a day. I work the day shift. But then when they got back up, the prosecution said, who subpoenaed you in this case? The defense. Did they tell you you couldn't watch anything? No. And that wouldn't be on the subpoenas. That is a conversation that has to be had with subpoenaed witnesses in some way, in email, in whatever. This law enforcement officer seems to have talked to at least her police commissioner, the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office about her testimony here. And she told FBI agents in August of 2023 that she saw Brian Higgins and Chief Burkowitz in the Sallyport for a weirdly long amount of time with Karen Read's SUV. And she said now that that is not the truth. So we have two people now who have given misstatements to the FBI, but she said it wasn't a lie. I remembered wrong, and I corrected it when I realized I remembered wrong. I couldn't have seen that. I was already gone. My question is, between January of 2022 and August of 2023, did she see that video at some point and go, oh, that's Burkowitz and Higgins in the Sallyport? I want to know that, because she did say she had seen the video, but no one asked her about when she worked the next day, because the SUV was in the Sallyport beyond February 2nd. Could it be that that was on January 30th? And no one asked, when did you work the next day? Were you in dispatch? Did you see them? Because Higgins and Burkowitz could have been in the Sallyport the next day. No one asked that question. I am Very curious how the jury will read this testimony. I think I probably can guess how everyone else will read it, but it's really going to depend on how the jury sees this witness. Are they going to discount her entirely and just be like, you don't even know? Or are they going to see this as part of a larger cover-up? Because what she said to federal agents is very specific, but is the jury going to feel that somehow the defense pressured her and yelled at her and told her they were going to eat her alive and she felt like she was going to get ripped a new one? How is that going to be perceived by the jury, who knows so much less than anyone who watched the first trial? It was wild testimony to watch unfold. I keep saying in a retrial, there shouldn't be surprises. I've never seen testimony unfold like that. And this is now twice that we have people saying, no, that wasn't accurate what I told those other agents from that other law enforcement agency.
And what is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those wounds were inflicted as a result of a dog attack.
We are at the lunch break on day 25 of the Karen Read retrial. We are in now to week 7. It is the second day of the defense's case in chief, and we are on the defense's, I think, 4th witness, and we are finally seeing called to the stand Dr. Russell. For those of you new to this trial, Dr. Russell is new to you. For those of you not new to this trial, you've seen Dr. Russell be voir dired in the middle of the last trial, testify in the middle of the last trial, voir dired later in the trial. We have seen quite a lot of information from Dr. Russell, who has a wide and varied experience, worked at County USC for quite a long time, but is testifying in this case to talk about the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm and where she suspects those injuries to have come from. This is a central point for both the defense and the Commonwealth. We saw the Commonwealth bring in their experts from Aperture, and their Aperture expert with the blue paint experiment said, this taillight lines up exactly with the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm when you're standing this way and getting hit by a car this way. He then said that the taillight would have broken if it was colliding with an arm at over 8 miles an hour. Did that expert explain the basis for it? I don't think so. But they gave the opinion. So the Commonwealth's opinions are that the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm are consistent with and from a taillight. The defense's expert is testifying now and in the middle of testimony that those injuries are consistent with and from a dog attack. And she is just explaining the grouping of injuries and the directionality of the injuries when the court broke for lunch. A lot has happened this morning, and the defense went in depth, more probably than needed, in depth with Dr. Russell's background. Why? Because we know that the Commonwealth has put forward a expert witness who is going to testify in possibly rebuttal that those injuries do not come from a dog. So we are going to have a battle of the experts. And as everyone is going to do, they are going to distinguish and differentiate their expert from the other party's experts. And I don't think you're going to find an expert who has the experience that this particular expert does. Why? Because this does not come up in this way very often. So again, I think Dr. Russell is a good expert for the defense because looking at pictures is one thing, but Dr. Russell has treated a substantial number of dog bites as well. So it's not just looking at a picture. It's looking at a picture, but also knowing how to read those medical records, how to interpret what's said, and then from your own experience, knowing what treating that looks like. I think she's a very interesting expert. I like the way she testifies. I'm always fascinated by her background. And I'm going to be real interested to see how this goes on cross-examination because, well, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes on cross-examination with Hank Brennan.
Thank you for your patience, Dr. Russell.
And the jury's probably like, we just came back from lunch.
The wounds you see on Exhibit 1 consistent or inconsistent with what you have seen from your experience with regard to motor vehicle accident victims?
Inconsistent.
And she is allowed to get into that opinion, the opinion being that the injuries are inconsistent with a motor vehicle accident.
Did you know that she said there was no depth and no puncture?
Not inconsistent with what I said.
I understand.
That's
Doctor,
not
but
what
I'm
he asked,
asking,
though.
Do you know that her position is that there was no puncture and no depth to those wounds?
Objection, Your Honor. Go ahead, the witness. see the report that he keeps referring to?
Can you answer that question without
Well,
saying it, or do you need to?
now it looks like Alessi's trying to bail out the witness by saying, can we have her look at it? But that's what Dr. Scordi-Bello said, is that there was no puncture and that the wounds were superficial. But I don't think that's very much different than what she said, because she said she relied on that report. But Alessi getting into, can we show her a report, is interesting.
Well, I remember it, but
She's
there's
like, I
no
don't know.
inconsistency here. I agree with that.
Would you accept that Dr. Scordi-Bello's opinion is that there was no depth and no puncture to those wounds?
May I see the report?
It might not be in the report. I'm asking about any testimony.
Brennan, didn't you just say you relied on the report? And now you're saying it might not be in the report? So at the end of day 25, a lot has happened today, including the testimony of Dr. Russell, and we were getting into the areas we thought we would on cross-examination with Attorney Brennan. Attorney Brennan was asking about the fact that she now does expert work and advertises herself for expert work and used a picture from this case in expert work. How that lands is going to depend on how the jury views the defense and the witness in this case. If it's, oh, you inserted yourself into this case, you parachuted into this case, you now advertise yourself in this area, you've only ever testified as an expert to this issue in this case, and now that is like the center point of your marketing, some jurors might be like, hey, what? And some jurors might be like, well, it doesn't come up very much. It's really just going to depend, because I think this witness answered very clearly, it doesn't come up very much. It's just interesting to watch Brennan try to attack a witness' CV and experience after what we've seen in the previous weeks of trial. It's wild to sit here and just be like, wait, what? So she does expert work now, and you're mad that she's a hired expert. Your hired experts are hired experts and have had some wild CVs. And then he started questioning this doctor about whether or not she had some kind of a certificate in dog bite analysis, to which she said that doesn't exist. And he's like, oh, you don't have a certificate? Sir, can we go back to some of your experts? It's kind of a wild line of questioning to see. He did ask this witness if she had been paid by the defense. Notice he didn't ask how much she had been paid, right? Because the Aperture contract of over $325,000 has already come out. And so any amount is going to be less than that any of these experts are paid. But trying to go tit for tat on some of that just falls flat for me, because it's all of the experts. And it's like, okay, it's all of the experts. But if you want to fight her because she doesn't have a certificate when she is given her background and experience and how many injuries like this she's seen and the fact that she's written peer review articles on them, I don't think it's a serve. I think it just comes across as incredibly petty, being like, oh, so you don't have a certificate? Really? What certificate is going to be different than her peer-reviewed articles, knowledge, and training? I think the marketing aspect is a better avenue for cross-examination. And I think talking to her about her opinions and prior testimony is a better area of cross-examination. The roundabout way we got through direct took a little bit of energy to follow. And now we're getting into Brennan's cross-examination on whether or not Dr. Russell's testimony has changed. She said, I am more confident in my opinion now, but in medicine, nothing is 100% certain. Where have we heard that before? I don't know. With all of the other experts that have said in engineering, nothing's 100% certain. You know what this witness didn't testify to? The victim was like launched into space or something. No, that happened with the Commonwealth's experts. So some of the pickiness on cross, you can miss me, because on other things on cross, there were points that were made that could be persuasive. I think that when Brennan makes good points on cross, sometimes it gets very lost behind his approach. And that can happen with Alessi too with this witness. The good points that Alessi made got lost at times in the weeds of how deep into her credentialing and experience he got, and not doing it in sync. It was out of order. So it felt like Alessi was going forward into opinions and then backward into expertise and then forward into opinions and then backward into expertise more instead of just going into all of it at once. And so that did get difficult to track. But once Brennan got to, but you don't have a certificate in this, I'm like, oh my God, stop. Just stop asking about a certificate, Brennan. Really? However, what was really helpful with this doctor is that when asked about other experts, she said, look, if somebody has seen this many animal bites, I'm not saying they have to be a doctor. I would prefer to see a doctor talking about the cause of injury. But if somebody has seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites, then I'm not going to say they can't recognize a dog bite from a picture. She didn't take it to the end degree where it starts getting ridiculous, which we can see with some experts. She said, look, if somebody has a tremendous amount of experience, then maybe if they've seen dog bites enough, then they can look at a picture and see it. Brennan also tried to say, but you didn't do the autopsy, so you weren't in the best position to see these. Brennan also brought in experts that looked at pictures and talked about what their opinion was. So again, it's like, well, can you do that? Or can you not do that? Because that's what Dr. Wolf, hungry like the, testified to. I looked at the medical reports and the pictures. And from the medical reports and the pictures and the autopsy, this was my opinion. And Brennan was like, thank you, sir. Dr. Russell, I looked at the medical reports and the opinion. I looked at the photos and the opinion. And this is my opinion. And he's like, but you just looked at the photos. It's the same thing. It's like that meme of The Office where it's like, it's the same picture. Like, it's the same thing. And Brennan is trying to make it seem like it was just, oh, but you only looked at the picture. She's like, I had adopted the findings of the coroner. When the coroner said these were superficial abrasions, then I went with these are superficial abrasions. She goes, I'm not challenging the medical examiner's testimony or report on that. So I think Dr. Russell has at times given up a little to Hank Brennan's questioning. So at times she was giving up to Brennan, but at times she was like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And I think Brennan got caught once in asking if this witness adopted the ME's report that said there were no punctures in the wounds. There were no puncture wounds, that these were superficial wounds. And there was an objection for Alessi, and she was saying, yes, I would agree with that. And then after the objection, she said, I don't know if that was in the report, but I agree with what the medical examiner said. And Brennan said, well, I don't know if it's in the report, after he was just asking her about the report. So did Brennan get caught saying something was in the report that wasn't in the report, and that's why Alessi was objecting? Because they sure as heck went to sidebar right after that. But it was kind of funny when he rewound himself and was like, you agree that there were no punctures? And she's like, I agree that these were superficial wounds, no punctures. Okay. The only time she talked about punctures was to the clothing. And I wish Alessi had gotten into that line of questioning more with the damage to the hoodie. I think that that's a really compelling line of testimony. And we haven't gotten to see the close-ups of the hoodie nearly enough. I think it's really noticeable when they zoom in on the clothing that those are very round looking, I don't know what to call them other than punctures. They are round holes in the clothing that kind of pull to the side. I think it was a great line of questioning. I wish Alessi had asked her more about why she relied on the clothes and what she relied on in the clothes, and describe what did you see in the clothes that supports your opinion that the injuries are from a dog and those injuries are not consistent with a vehicle collision. And he didn't circle back to it. Maybe we'll see it tomorrow on Redirect. So tomorrow we are going to resume with a full day of court and the cross-examination of Dr. Marie Russell, one of the key experts for the defense. And the name that kept coming up in this, the other doctor's name, is a different pathologist that is also an expert for the defense. I wonder if that will be the defense's next witness, if they're going to call Dr. Russell and then call the pathologist that they hired in this case. We heard the defense on opening say that there was no hypothermia here, and we haven't seen any testimony about that. We didn't see that in the last trial. So I'm really interested to see if we are going to get into a competing medical examiner opinion. I'm real interested to see it. So Is that who's going to be up next? That would linearly make sense that they would call Dr. Russell, then call their other medical examiner, Dr. Lapasato. And then who would be next? Arca? I don't know. It'll be very interesting to see the order of witnesses from here because there's going to be some new testimony. And we've already seen some of that new testimony with the first witness the defense called last Friday. But there is still some expert testimony. I wonder if we are done with the experts after that. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the Law Nerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you, and you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.